Welcome to Master Domaining. I'm Gene Pimentel, and in this session, we will continue our discussion about understanding the dynamics of email campaigns. This is part 5. In the last session, we talked about what to say to prospects who reply to your email campaign. In this session, let's flip that around and begin to explore how you should reply to people who initiate the contact to you through email. Before we dive into that, I want to cover a few more important tips for email communications, whether you initiate the contact or they do. There are different schools of thought on this, but in my experience and my opinion, you should almost always give the impression you're an individual with a domain to sell. You don't want to give the impression that you're a company who sells lots of domain names. The difference is very significant in the mind of the prospective buyer. It boils down to the fact that people don't like to be sold to. They know companies sell. Most people will feel much more at ease dealing with another individual who just happens to have something that interests them. It's much less threatening. For that reason, try not to sound like a company. You're an individual. Therefore, never refer to yourself as we. So often I have to laugh when I hear people use the terminology we this or we that, when it's clear they're a one-person show. Using we instead of I makes you look silly, and it distances you from the prospective buyer. Communicate on the same level as your potential buyer. Become their friend. In fact, you want to appear a little vulnerable. Why? Because it gives the potential buyer a more confident frame of mind. It makes them feel like they have more control. Confident minds make easier decisions. Do you get that? That's very important. Remember, we're assuming the perspective of everyday domain flipping under regular circumstances. That being said, understand that there are situations when you do want to appear as a company with a perceived track record and verifiable business background. That is often the better posture for when you're dealing with a major corporation or very high-ticket domain sales. We're not going to focus on that, though, because most domain flipping situations are much better approached in a one-on-one atmosphere. When people approach you first, they are motivated by something. They're reaching out to you, making the initial contact. That's usually a very, very good position for you to be in because you are not chasing the sale. You are simply responding to their wants and needs. Maybe their motivation is to try to get you to sell your domain for a little more than registration fee. Maybe they're a company who buys domains often and understands what a decent offer would be. Or maybe they're a major corporation who is approaching you as a small mom-and-pop store to give you the impression they're not able to spend a lot. Whatever the case may be, it's important for you not to assume anything. Allow them to reveal themselves by how they communicate and act. Until you know who they really are, it is best to reply as if you're dealing with a buyer who does have plenty of capital to work with. If they don't, they'll be quick to let you know, but at least you'll be starting from the top. So what do you do when you get a request for your domain name out of the blue? The very first thing you need to do is put on your Sherlock hat. The more information you know about the person or company contacting you, the better you'll be able to reply in a way that they can relate with. Knowing who you're dealing with is a very powerful tool in your negotiation toolbox. The problem is, when someone contacts you out of the blue, they quite often attempt to remain anonymous or at least try not to reveal too much about themselves. Most don't want you to know that they're inquiring about your domain for their very profitable company or practice. They'll often be very generic with their information. On the other hand, some prospects are totally transparent and share all their information in the initial contact because they understand how to do business properly. The bottom line is this: once you get that initial contact, your first job is to find out who they are. In the next session, I will cover methods of extracting information about a prospect even with very minimal information.